All right, my name is Corinne Banks, and this is my senior project presentation. So my essential question was, how can I successfully plan, fundraise, and create a pollinator garden at the Cloud F. Brown in order to benefit the ecosystem? A preview of what I will be discussing. So I'm going to be talking about how my project actually came to be and the steps I took, all the people who helped me throughout my way, the lessons that I created for the elementary school students, and then how I went about actually building the garden. What inspired me to do this project? So I knew I really wanted to do something that helps the environment because I'm really passionate about that. So what better way than to use flowers, which is good for the environment and good for animals. I knew I also wanted to do something that was hands-on because I didn't want to get bored of my project, and I really like to get really involved in the things that I do. So this was perfect for me. And then also flowers are beautiful, so it makes Millis really pretty. And my teacher, Miss Bartley, proposed this idea to me in class because she said that a student in the past years tried to do this, but it didn't really work out, so I knew that I wanted to take over this project. Now I'm going to go a little bit into my mentor. So for this project, I chose my mentor to be Miss Cheney. I chose her because she's a biology teacher, so I knew she would know a lot about plants and what they need and what the best way I should do it is. And also I had her as a teacher in previous years, and I just love Miss Cheney so much, and she's always there for me and really good at supporting me, so I knew she would be perfect. So Miss Cheney suggested that I get in touch with John Engler because he helped coordinate the extension that was going to go on to our high school. And I was originally going to plant my garden at the high school, but when I talked to John, he suggested that I do it at the elementary school just so that I would make sure that it wouldn't be affected by that expansion or get destroyed by it. So he suggested I talk to Jean Noonan, who coordinates the extended day program, and she was able to let me put my garden right next to her vegetable gardens, which is super convenient because it's going to help the vegetable gardens as well as it helps me and gives me a place to put my garden. And she suggested that I get the elementary school kids involved, which I was so thrilled about because I love kids. So that's how the educational component kind of came into my project. So then after I knew where I was going to put the garden and everything, I wanted to start thinking about the execution of it and everything. So I was researching seeds and everything, and then I told my mom about that, and she suggested that I talk to Mark Feldhusen, who works for the Newton's Conservators, because my mom used to work in Newton, so she knew him. And he basically does all the gardening in Newton and has worked with kids before on gardening, and he does a really good job. So he was able to help me talk about which plants would be best to put in my garden, and we ended up coming up with a list of all of these plants. And it ended up costing only $55, which was really affordable, and I was able to recycle cans for that money, which gave me half the money, and then I just paid for the rest of it out of pocket. And then we also talked about how I could have planted seeds originally and have them sprouted and then moved those plants into the garden, but we talked about how it might be easier to just have the kids plant seeds since kids, it's difficult to do the roots and everything, and it's just easier for them to just put a seed in and cover it with dirt. So I ended up going that route. My execution, so I started planning out my project in October when we started talking about what a senior project was and what we were going to do. And then I created the lesson plans in March, and me and my friend's dad prepared the garden frame in April, and we just had to put the blocks together. It was really easy. And then I taught Mondays from April 6th to May 4th at the elementary school after school program. And then May 4th, we planted the garden. How the garden bed came to be. So I had already figured out where I was going to put it because Jean Noonan helped me. And it was really convenient because Miss Cheney ended up telling me that she had a grant in the previous year, and she had already bought in garden frames. So she let me use one of her garden frames from that, and that was super convenient because I didn't have to stress out about buying a garden frame. And then Jean Noonan also told me that she had soil left over from last year when she was planting the vegetable gardens. So she had John Engler just come over and put the soil in the garden for me. So it was really convenient that everyone was donating me all these things. And then I also had my friend's dad help me put it together and use the power tools because I wasn't really sure how, so that was also really convenient. Now I'm going to go into each week that I was at the elementary school. So on the first week, I just wanted to explain to the kids what my project was and what we were going to be doing, and I wanted to see if any of the kids would be interested, and they were, and all the kids were so excited about it, which made me so happy. And I also printed out like a word search just to do as like a little activity, just for fun, and a couple kids did it with me, and they wrote 6-7 all over it because they're elementary school kids. And yeah, and it was like vocab on like honeybees, so like pollinator vocab and that kind of thing. So it was like also a little bit educational. On my second week, we did an activity about how bees pollinate. So first we read this whole like page on how it works and like the entire process of it basically, so that they had the little background knowledge. And then I had them do an activity where they colored like flowers, and then we put a little piece of tape in the middle to represent the stigma of a flower, which is where the pollen goes for flowers to pollinate. And then they made little bees out of pipe cleaners, and I put chalk in the flowers to represent pollen. So they had their like little pipe cleaner bees fly from flower to flower, and they got to like spread their pollen to each flower. So they were like representing bees basically. And yeah, it was really good, and they were able to learn a lot. And they also really liked the word sticky stigma, which is what we called that because the stigma of a flower is sticky. On my third week, we did just different coloring of pollinators. This was more chill week. I had a few kids like just color in like hummingbirds, bees, bats, butterflies, all that good stuff. And I also picked out coloring pages that would have like labeling just so that it was a little more information. And then I also was able to get books from the Millis High School library. And so a lot of the kids couldn't read, but we just looked at the pictures and talked about the different pollinators that were in the book, and they really liked that. And then the fourth week was the week that I planted the garden. So I had my friend Sadie come and help me because I needed a volunteer because I knew it was going to be like a little chaotic, and that was like a lot of help. So basically we had the kids dig a little hole with their finger, and then we gave them like a little bit of seeds, and they were able to like put the seeds in the hole and like cover up the dirt, and they were all like really excited about it and had a great time. And once like the seed was completely completely put in, then I had them all like use the watering can to like water each section of their garden, and they like really, really enjoyed that too. And then after it was already planted, we talked about like what seeds need to grow, how they need sun and water and all that stuff, just to like add a little more education in there. Here are some more pictures of them planting. So yeah, and then the watering can is on the way far one. Vision of a graduate. So I needed to collaborate with the extended day program in order to get the kids involved and plant my garden there. So that was really good. And then critical thinking, I needed to think a lot about like which lessons I wanted to do which day and like what the lessons were going to be and how to execute that. So I ended up doing it, I think, in like the best order that I would have thought out. Communication, I got to spread the importance of pollinators to all the kids, and hopefully they'll like make their own pollinator garden someday or tell their parents about it. And then character, I got to give back to my community by helping not only the environment but also like educating little kids about how pollinators are really important. My successes. So my biggest success is that the kids were really excited to participate in my project, which I was so thankful for, because if they weren't going to participate, that would not be really good. I got to spread a lot of information about pollinators to them, and also when we planted the seeds, it all went really well, and like there was no complications, which was really helpful. Also, I ended up having to send out a form to the parents just asking for consent to put their kids' photos in the presentation, and one of the moms replied and told me how her daughter like told her about my project in the gardening club and how she loved it so much and that she's really gonna miss it. So that really made me happy because I'm glad that she like actually really liked it. Some things that I would do differently. I would have planted seeds earlier in like the little containers. I did do some of them, but I would have liked to have that like opportunity to more decide on if I wanted to do like planting plants versus seeds. I think it ended up working out the way I did it, but like it would have been nice if you could see a picture with like little sprouts in the garden or whatever, but it all worked out. And then I also wish I got more volunteers, especially when I was doing the activities with the kids, because especially on like the one where they had to build like the paper flowers, there was like 14 kids there, and I didn't expect it to be that many kids participating, and it was just me doing it. So it would have been helpful to have another helping hand there because it was chaotic. It's a bunch of little kids, and like it was a lot. I want to say thank you to Jean Noonan, who coordinates the extended day, because she was able to get me involved with the kids. John Engler for suggesting to do it at the elementary school. Miss Cheney for being the best mentor ever, John Vasta, who is my friend's dad, who helped me build the garden, and then Mark Feldhusen, who helped me pick out the seeds, and any extended day helpers, and the kids, obviously, who participated in my project. Any questions?